So, Mike, really nice to have you on here today, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation to dive into partnerships. But before we start, because you've really had a bit of a journey, I know you've been even running some, I think, some marketing agencies back in the days and being in the CSM, customer success sphere, and also running some different partnership programs, both from building it up and also now with CallRail, where I think you have like 7,000 partners or something like that in your network. So quite a journey. So maybe start with a little bit of a backstory. So your journey to the mic that we see in front of us today and what you've been doing all this time.
Andreas, it's great to be here with you, and happy to share some of my insights and learnings after many years of doing partnerships. So I will spare you with the long, long history, but previously I was an entrepreneur and had something like three digital marketing startups. So not really agencies so much, but we had a couple of successful exits. And that was great learning. When you're an entrepreneur, you wear many hats. So you have to learn how to be a salesperson. You have to learn how to be a customer success person. You need to learn how to do some product. And it's really helped me in my career having that experience as an entrepreneur. But my partnership career really advanced when I was at Marketo, where I was a driver of the growth of Marketo's LaunchPoint partner ecosystem. And so, because that was several years ago, I'll share Marketo's LaunchPoint partner ecosystem was very similar to HubSpot's app ecosystem. So, very similar ecosystems. And I was actually tied, leading the charge in terms of first party data. So Marketo obviously is a platform for marketing automation, has a lot of email and other things. So first party data and tying that together with advertising platforms was a big area that I focused on. And so I managed major partners like LinkedIn and Facebook and the integrations with Marketo. So I ended at Marketo as a senior director of business development after a 4.5 year run. But I did join Marketo actually in the customer success role. So we'll chat more about that later. After leaving Marketo, I was actually at a company called Vidyard, which many folks may know. Vidyard is one of the leaders in video engagement tools. And I worked there to try and actually embed their software into other tools. After Vidyard, I actually joined a little small company that most people don't know called Facebook or Meta. Um, I think everyone knows them. And when I was at Facebook,
I was actually gonna be I was like, what company is this? And I like, oh yeah, yeah. I was like,
who is this? Who is that? Yeah. So when I was at Facebook, I managed the MarTech partnerships. What does that mean? So MarTech, I managed major kind of multi-product, multi-billion-dollar partnerships between Facebook and HubSpot, Facebook and Salesforce, Zapier, Segment, Twilio was another one of my partners. Oracle, of course, my old company, Adobe Marketo, was now my partner, and several others. And so that was really great learning because at Facebook, running partnerships, it's really about the scale. Where can you go that you can say you can manage multi-billion-dollar partnerships between some of these major companies? So great learnings there. After I left Facebook, I joined a company called Nextroll. Nextroll has a couple of different business units that your listeners might be familiar with. So they have AdRoll, which has been around for quite some time in the advertising space, and then also Rollworks, which is the division that I joined to help them build out their partnerships team. So Rollworks is focused on ABM, account-based marketing and that specifically tied to advertising and other things. And so at Rollworks, I actually helped build partnerships from the ground up. So I launched partnerships with, again, a lot of the similar folks that I've worked with throughout my career, HubSpot, LinkedIn, and many others. And actually, I'm proud to say that after about 4 years, starting as just me, the only partnership person, Rollworks is actually now the top most installed kind of true ABM platform in the HubSpot app ecosystem. A lot of customers are using that, seeing value. And so after about 4 years at Rollworks, last year I actually joined CallRail as the VP of Partnerships. And if you don't know, CallRail is actually a leader in the call tracking and AI-powered analytics space. And so what we do is we help advertisers. We basically have their phone calls that they're driving to their business through a variety of marketing activities. We help them record it and analyze it. And then we have the AI tools to actually tell them what are the best marketing campaigns that they're driving to drive the highest ROI, best results, and all of that for their business. And so here at CallRail, I actually own both our agency partnerships as well as our strategic and technology partnerships. And so it's quite a good sized team, 20 plus team members, largely on the agency side. And as you mentioned, we do work with something like 7,000 agency partners, which is a huge program that is continually growing and driving a large chunk of our business. So that's kind of a little bit about my background. It's been a great run, and I really love kind of this partnership angle of building bridges between companies and trying to drive, 1 + 1 = 3 or 5 or 7, right? So that's what I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, and so we're gonna go a little bit into that later as well. We kind of setting things up early on, but I'm still very curious because I would imagine the difference of kind of starting things up, like what you mentioned there, being part of building a partner program versus your 20 people, 7,000 partners, like that is a lot of moving parts there and probably a lot of opinions and things like that. So what would you say? What's the biggest difference like between kind of I guess when you're small, you're way more reactive in terms of what you're focusing like, or how would you describe the difference between those two different roles and the different skill sets that you would kind of utilize, I guess you can say, or is it the same, just in a different scale?
I think it's a little bit different. I think when you're a small company and you're building a team out, maybe you're the first team member or, 2 people, 3 people, something like this. You really have to focus on like where can you drive impact? And in a smaller company, there's a lot more scrutiny. There's a lot more attention on your impact, and so you have to go out and you have to think about like where can you drive value quickly for the company. But then also you have to be strategic because you have to say, well, if things grow, you have to plant seeds that may grow to large plants or forests later on. And so you have to kind of think more tactically when you're in a smaller company and driving impact quickly, but you still have to have that strategic side of planting seeds that will hopefully grow. When you're at a larger company with a lot more resources, large team, maybe things have already been built out. So you're not having to think about necessarily, um, planting seeds early on or getting those super quick wins fast. You're more thinking about, is your team structured for continued growth and success? Are you doing the right things? Are you optimizing the team in such a way that you will get to further growth and development? So it's a very different mindset. You still have to be strategic, but it's more around optimization, driving further growth, and kind of understanding what is the future direction versus being more tactical and trying to drive immediate impact.
Yeah, I can definitely see there as well with, if you work with partners, like you got to think a little bit about the long-term play, even if you're small, because if you promise something, you know, it might be hard to walk back on all your promises 1 year later if you realize that that wasn't the best of ideas.
That's right. And I think you have to be willing to iterate quickly. This is the thing about a startup is iterate quickly. So you can fail fast and learn quickly and move on. And oftentimes partnerships, you're going to have that. You're going to learn quickly and say, that worked or that didn't work. Larger companies, it's a little different because those bets have to be more calculated and you can't fail as fast. Like, it takes longer. So I think that there's a little bit of nimbleness that you have as a startup.
Yeah, no, I also like as yeah, I also some people might know I do have a background like as a sales in partners. I haven't built partner program. I was more a cog in the wheel, so to say. But I know that I always saw like as a partner manager, I saw myself as running a business within the business. So my little business was all my partners, and my job was to make them sell more and training and coaching and working strategically with that. And I know that you also have a bit of an entrepreneurial background. Um, like, how important do you think that part is, or do you also see it like that? Like, this is a lot of kind of mini businesses, and you're kind of building out your own little business in the business.
I love that you asked that question. And it's why I think being an entrepreneur actually leads to being a good partnership leader, is because I do take that mindset that um, each of these is a business, not just not just each partnership, which is a business in some way that you are launching, you're driving adoption, you're driving growth, you have all of these things, but also the partner function is a business within your company, and you have to treat it as such, as like, what is the impact is it driving, what is your P&L, how does it impact other teams, all of those things that I think you have to go in with an entrepreneurial type mindset of, you are building something that takes time, it's valuable, you have internal customers and stakeholders, what are the goals that you're going after. So yes, I completely agree with you that taking that approach of, this is my business that I'm trying to grow, is really key if you want to be successful. I liken it to taking ownership of something. It's actually like a very core tenet of what I believe in, is people that are successful in their careers take ownership. They care about something enough that it is their own business, and those people generally are more successful.
Yeah, as I say, it probably goes like outside just partnership. It's probably you can probably draw that to any kind of role. If you're thinking about yourself as a little business, and you take ownership, you're probably gonna
That's right.
do pretty well for yourself. But we talked a little bit about that kind of showing impact and getting results, and like there's a lot of moving parts here. So I think that's quite natural then to take us to kind of a little bit of the concept that you've developed, talking about the four lenses of partner success. So maybe we can go a little bit into that, and maybe starting with kind of the what was the when you kind of structure this and thought about like how to set that up, like what's the kind of the outcome that you were looking for when you first kind of, I guess you can say, coined this structure and picked those specific bits?
Yeah, I think partnerships has been something that's kind of going through an evolution, right? And so there's been a ton of development in partner programs over the years that I've been doing this. And so my approach to partnerships has changed a bit, and so before I get into the four lenses, I'll talk a little bit about of that, which is when I joined Marketo, I joined to lead the customer success team, as I mentioned, and I always had an eye towards that value that customers get from the platform, so from Marketo. And I started to notice that the customers that were actually the most successful and had highest retention rates were also the ones that were leveraging our LaunchPoint technology partner integrations. And so I was like, oh, this is very interesting. There's some correlation there. So these customers were more sticky, they were more invested in Marketo, and they were able to achieve better results. And I think back to some of the customers that I managed personally. So I managed RingCentral, I managed Google, I managed some of the other major enterprise companies, and they were more successful because they were using some of these integrations. And so it was interesting back then. And so this was 2012 and 2013, so more than 10 years ago, Andreas. So I talk about this same time. Yeah, yeah. So when I started to see that correlation, I said there wasn't a lot of data to prove it. So I was kind of out there saying, I see this, but there's not a lot of data proving it. And so, fast forward to when I joined Rollworks in 2019, I was laser focused on proving the impact of partnerships. And so I even I looked this up. I wrote to Scott Brinker, the godfather of Martech, current HubSpot VP of the app ecosystem, and I wrote to him in 2020 and asked him about, is he seeing the same thing that I saw at Marketo? Is he seeing that the impact of integrations was tied to improved retention of the HubSpot customers? And actually, he came back and in 2020 he said, there's a correlation there. I don't have a lot of firm data on that. And if you fast forward, so that's 2020. Now you fast forward to 2024 today, and it's actually fairly commonly discussed as an acknowledged impact of partnership. Like, actually, HubSpot does talk about this. I think Yamini and others from the leadership team have been, speaking about how customers that are using partner integrations, the app partner integrations, but also who are using solutions partners, agency partners, are far more likely to retain and grow with HubSpot. So I think this is something that's very interesting. And so partnerships have evolved. And what that did is that kind of drove me into this mindset of how do I show the impact? And so, as you mentioned, I developed this concept called something that I try to boil it down and explain it to, um, you know, boards, investors, your CEO, your CRO, your CMO. They're all asking like partnerships. Okay, we get it. They're kind of important, but how and what? And so I kind of sat down and went off for a weekend and thought about how do I explain this impact of partnerships? Like, how do I boil it down to something that all of these groups will understand? And so, um, really, what I did was I call it the four lenses of partnership success, and what it is measuring and enhancing that impact of partnerships. And so, there's four lenses that I go through, but really, what it is it's to try and demonstrate the value that we get. And so I can go through each of those lenses and share that with the audience because I think it's helpful to understand. Do you think that that works?
No, definitely. And before we do that, I just wanted to complete side notes like what is your go-to you said you went away for a week to think. So
Yep.
what is your go-to thinking place? Is it like going out on a hut with no electricity, or what's the strategy?
Not quite. It's out in nature. So I live here in the San Francisco Bay Area. If people are familiar, I live nearby to Stanford University. There's a hiking trail, and it's up above Stanford University, and it's got a big dish, satellite dish type thing, and it's called the Dish, and you can go for a hike, and I enjoy doing that because you're out in nature. You get some fresh air, you have beautiful views. And it just allows you to kind of think through things. And I highly recommend that to people. We get so caught up in the day to day with our Slacks and our emails and all the other distractions that we have. Just sometimes take some time to go for a walk or a hike or get out in nature where it allows you time to think. Even if you're not thinking about work specifically, it may just unlock something, or it may allow you that time and space to get into a thinking zone that you can come up with stuff. And so that's what I did here. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, a little bit of a
So,
sidetrack. No, it's
uh,
I that kind of how people come up with ideas, and that kind of I find that super interesting as well. You remember stuff sometimes too, something you forgot, and then you're like, oh right, yeah. But cool. No, I'm a big fan of walks. That's my favorite way of just thinking and cleaning the heads and just reflecting or just doing nothing and just walking.
highly recommend it. I
Yeah,
encourage people actually on my team, go and schedule a 15-20 minute block on your calendar where you just go for a walk. It doesn't have to be long or strenuous, right? And just kind of get away from the computer, give your eyes a rest, and go and use it as thinking time.
I agree. I have half an
Yeah,
hour middle of the day. And
perfect.
dog, gotta do that.
Uh,
Anyways, like let's go. Sorry, yeah, I know
sure.
I drifted away a little bit there, but let's go back to the
Let's
four
go into the
lenses.
lenses. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go
So
into those. Let's start with the first one.
let, yeah, let's talk about the four lenses. So the first lens, so this is the impact that partnerships drive. And when you talk about a new partner program, or you're talking to your board, or you're talking to your CEO, and you're saying you want to invest more in partnerships, here's the lenses that I say that you should look at everything through. Every new partnership you can evaluate through these four lenses. And you can actually talk about it and have a common language. I'm encouraging all other partner leaders, please take these. Take these, try them with your exec teams or your board or your investors or everyone else that you're working with. I think they'll resonate. I've seen it work now at a couple of different companies. I've advised other companies and they've used it to success. So let's dive in. So the four lenses. The first one that I talked about is increased market presence. What do I mean by that? That is like, how do partnerships contribute to a brand's visibility and market reach? So that could be co-marketing. So the first lens is really the starting point for many partnerships, right? When you have a conversation with someone and you determine that you're selling to the same, um, some companies call it ICP, or ideal customer profile. Maybe you're selling to the same group, and that you are better together. Your story makes sense. This is why you work together. but you don't maybe have an integration yet. You have a complementary solution, or you think it is. You're selling to a similar group. So I recommend that companies look at doing co-marketing together. Can you help with top of funnel demand generation? Can you help with education? Can you help with awareness via activities, things like blog posts or webinars or educational content? And there's lots of examples of this, but um, you know, uh, HubSpot and CallRail, why a call tracking analytics and AI powered platform works so well with the power of the HubSpot CRM, their marketing and their sales and the other hubs. Like, why do these two work together? Well, we sell to many small and mid-sized businesses that are driving calls to try and grow their business. So we should do co-marketing together. We should go out there and tell that story and educate the market on why these two tools together are valuable, right? And so I always recommend that partners start with this first lens, which is really kind of thinking about co-marketing, increased market presence, and that. Um, so the next lens is one that our CROs. So by the way, the CMO cares most about that first lens. Your CMO will say, "Awesome, this is great. Doing more co-marketing together, having those activities driving demand gen funnel." CMO, right? The next one is you will be your CRO's best friend, so your chief revenue officer's best friend, if you bring in partner sourced revenue. So that is the second lens. So partner sourced revenue is tough actually for many partners to drive. It's not easy, and so partnerships that make sense though can actually drive partner sourced revenue via things like referrals. Uh, Often in my career, I've seen that is solutions or agency partners that are consulting with their clients and can recommend technology vendors. But also, if you're a complementary technology partner, maybe two tech platforms, you can also refer other integrated technologies. Hey, by the way, using both of us together drives better results or drives increased things. And so I'll give an example of this. At Facebook, by having the integration, so Facebook and HubSpot, and we had 4 or 5 different integrations. We've had things like custom audiences passing over. We had offline conversion happening. We had lead ads integration. We had a couple of these other things. By having all of those integrations together, it actually helped drive HubSpot customers to spend more advertising dollars on Facebook. And so we saw a huge increase in the amount of advertising dollars coming from the HubSpot partnership because we had multiple integrations in place. And that is huge. That very big growth for Facebook to have additional advertising dollars coming through. And so, that's a very powerful a partnership, right? Two large companies. But here at CallRail, we actually drive something like 40% of our revenue via our agency partner program. North of that, actually, it's higher than 40%. Um, and that is because our agency partners really enjoy CallRail. It helps them show the impact of their business. Hey, look, we drove these calls, and CallRail shows it, so it helps them with attribution, helps them validate the efforts that they're doing. Lots of good value there, right? So they refer business to CallRail. And then also, we recently launched an integration with Jobber. So, not sure if your listeners know, but Jobber is a kind of a home services platform, allowing people that different. Jabber is different. Jobber, yeah, Jobber. And so Jobber is for home services professionals and companies, franchises, and others that are, driving home services like you need your garage door installed or fixed, or you need a plumber, or you need this or that home repair. And so we launched an integration with Jobber just a couple weeks ago, and we've already seen a strong number of referrals come in from Jobber to CallRail. A lot of them that have come through that they've said, "Hey, we have this new integration with CallRail. It's really, really great." And they actually drive trials into our business to help us grow. And so this is how partner sourced revenue, again, the second lens, can happen. And I gave a couple examples. So Facebook, CallRail, a couple of examples here through solutions partners referring business to CallRail, as well as a technology partner to CallRail. So if you can drive partner sourced revenue, this is something that will help you grow your business. I will say partner sourced revenue is usually at the end value. It's not always the first one, because it's hard. It's just hard to get the salespeople understanding, get them trained, enabled, and then confident enough that they can refer your business. But once it happens, it's very valuable. So, all right, partner source revenue. That's our second lens.
So just question, there's like actually two things. The first thing, because we speak a lot about like attribution when it comes to our customers, and it's really becoming a big thing with how to measure impact. So also there with when you mentioned Colorado, I think it was 40% revenue. Like is that like kind of like referring source? Like how do you work with actually attributing that revenue to partners? Because I guess that's not always super easy if it's not just click this affiliate link or here I submit a form with my lead.
Mhm. We leverage a platform inside CallRail Partner Stack that allows us to track and manage this. That we provide individual links to the agency partners that we work with that they're able to submit referrals, and that ties it to all of our end systems, so Salesforce and others that we use. It drives them right into our free trial. We are a product-led growth company, and so it just drives right into that, and then we're able to tie all the data through that and then pay out through partner stack. And so that's how we do it. There's all kinds of different ways that you could do it, but that's how we are able to do our own internal attribution to our agency partners. But CallRail as a tool for agency partners, we allow them to say they drove all these calls, what the disposition of those calls were. We provide summaries of each of those calls. We provide really robust AI analytics on top keywords in those calls. What was the sentiment in those calls? And then, of course, summary of summaries. We actually can allow them to see very quickly at a glance multiple calls that their ad campaigns are driving and the results of that. And then they can tweak the ad campaigns to improve the results. And so really powerful stuff that we do with agencies there.
Yeah. No, yeah. So that kind of direct attribution, that's the, I guess that's the golden standard. If you can get that working and get that attribution with that kind of direct link, then I guess that's a very, very good position to be in when it comes to actually proving your value.
That's right. That's why agencies love CallRail.
Yeah.
But let's jump into the third lens just so we get through all four. But broadening product capabilities, and so the fourth lens, broadening product capabilities. What do I mean by that? By having integrations, it's pretty obvious, right? By having integrations, it allows your own software to do more things. And so you can have new data sets. You can have better activation of your own data and activate it in other places. You can drive improved efficiency, like you spend less time doing something. You can drive improved ROI. There's a whole variety of different things that you can do by having an integration. So here's an example of that, which is here at CallRail, we just launched integration to MailChimp. So another new integration that we've recently launched. And what that does is it allows customers to include those people that have, sending leads that have called your business and driving those to MailChimp so that the customers can actually take those, include them into automated follow-up communications. So, hey, someone called your business, send them an email or, any number of different things that MailChimp can activate. And so that you can actually segment your communications by using this data for better targeting. Customers using that CallRail MailChimp integration also get things like a larger population of contacts with phone numbers, which means they can actually take better advantage of things like MailChimp's SMS marketing. So sending out SMS text messages. So that's one. We also here at CallRail have a really robust integration with HubSpot. We've talked a lot about it. We were major sponsors at last year's Inbound. We will be there again this year. I'd encourage your listeners to come and visit us. We'll have a great presence, but we have a very powerful integration with HubSpot. that allows our customers to do that much more by having that call data and the analytics and the AI-powered insights right there in their HubSpot for better activation. So uh, that's the third lens, is broadening product capabilities. And I talked about the CMO cares about the first lens, the CRO cares about sourced revenue. Who cares about this one, the product capabilities? Your chief product officer cares a lot about this. And in fact, some partner teams report into the chief product officer, and they're gold on things like integrations, right? So your chief product officer. And then the last one that I have for your listeners is the fourth lens is improving retention and renewal rates. So many of us have SaaS businesses. Many of us have businesses that are recurring revenue monthly. Um, this lens is super important for most. And I spoke about it a little bit earlier, but when a customer leverages partner integrations, they're typically stickier, they get better ROI, they have improved results from your software. And if you look at that and you say, okay, for how many integrations do they have? What is the retention rate? This is hard for many companies to do. Work with your own internal RevOps team or your business intelligence BI team to get you this data. But I'd encourage you to look at it. For those customers that have one integration, what is their retention renewal rate? Well, for those that have none, you should check that too. For those with one, for two, for three, you will see that the retention rate improves dramatically based on the number of integrations that they have. And so at Rollworks, we publicly shared this, that we identified customers with 4 or more integrations. And so that could be very basic. That could be they connected their HubSpot, they connected to LinkedIn, they connected to a couple of others. But we see that those that had 4 or more integrations were 35% less likely to churn. Now, for any business, that's a big deal. Like driving down churn by 35% is huge. Here at CallRail, we see that customers leveraging our HubSpot integration have half the churn of those that don't leverage the integration. We have a very good business. We don't have much churn, but those that are using the HubSpot integration are half as likely to leave. So in any SaaS business, I'd say improving churn is probably top of mind for any CEO or chief customer officer. And I'd encourage you to really invest in working with the team to understand that impact and drive that improved company retention. So who cares about this one, Andreas? Your chief customer officer. So I've just told you these 4 lenses, and they map to each of the leaders in your company. And it's common language that you can use to say, here's the impact of partnerships. And it's not just partner sourced. A lot of partner teams get trapped in that. But you really should be talking about all 4 of these lenses. And when you evaluate a new partnership, you should say, okay, does this new partnership, how many of the lenses can I check that this new partner helps with? If it's only one, maybe you don't prioritize that and you prioritize one that will help you with 3 out of the 4 or all 4 lenses. So it helps you as a partner leader also prioritize where you're investing.
Yeah, no, I really like that kind of structuring. And I would even like, I don't think any sales rep would suffer if your tool can integrate with a lot of other tools. Like, I know for a fact that that makes your life so much easier if you're selling a tool and it integrates with the tool stack they're already using. So I think the CRO is probably going to be happy about more than one of these, hopefully.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think actually you see that quite a bit because the integrations allow you to speak with more authority. So, for example, CallRail, we sell in the a legal space. It's one of our top verticals. And we partner with companies like MyCase and Clio and Lawmatics and several others that are in the legal space that are CRMs specific to that space. But because we integrate, we partner with them, when we go and try and sell to a law office or a large firm, we speak their language and we say we integrate to the platforms that you use. And therefore, we are more credible to our audience that we're trying to sell to, that we know their market. So we have generally higher win rates for sales when we have partners and partner integrations in place, and we can speak better to it. We can do co-marketing with them and show up in that industry. So there's a whole lot of benefits that partners drive for that.
Yeah, no, awesome. Um, Actually, let's because yeah, I know we kind of went on a few side topics there,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, I really like to also talk a bit more about the kind of challenges with kind of setting up a partner program
Mhm.
and like really trying to focus on that as a business. Um, like you've done this quite a few times now, both like starting it up and being a part of like bigger teams. Like what do you think is like in your experience the biggest kind of obstacle, like in terms of we talked a little bit of getting buy-in and showing value and the four lenses, like, but where would you say the biggest hurdle is for actually doing this in a good way?
I think the biggest hurdle, and this sounds like such an easy answer, but the biggest hurdle is having a short-term mindset, that partnerships need to provide an immediate, quick return. Um, I have just found that that is not realistic. And it's maybe a little bit of a spicy answer. um, but that's right, that's right. If you want to invest in partnerships, you should be prepared to have a year minimum, at minimum, that you will be investing in either a person or a team and tools and other things that you have to put in place before you'll start to see the impacts that we talk about. Now, you may get small wins in between, right? You may get a deal referred, or you may get some co-marketing wins quickly. Um, but to really get things going, you need to have at least a year of investment. So I think the biggest challenge really is just that short-term mindset that companies say, yes, we need to invest in partners, but they need to show immediate returns. That's not the right approach. And even when I'm out in the industry interviewing or advising companies, I tell them this is my expectation is that it needs to be at least a year commitment. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. There are things you can do, but it's not a full-fledged program. So I have seen many companies hire new VP of partnerships, and then they expect kind of miracles to happen. And 6 months later or 9 months later, they say, show me the money or where's the revenue? And that person is not able to demonstrate that, and they let them go. I've seen that a lot, especially in the last couple of years. I think companies and their boards and others are saying we need to invest in partnerships, but then they have these short-term mindsets, which is, I think, the biggest obstacle, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think like it's I think that's also where the four lenses is gonna help because I think it's also basically like build partner program, please. Okay, so how are we doing that? Who are we focusing on? Like what are we doing here? No, build partner program. You've done it before. Go. And that short-term mindset with the kind of we don't really know what you want, we want, but you figure out what we want. And then not being able to focus on a few things and doing that really well and just like becomes this kind of a mess.
That's right. And so, that's the reason I talk a lot about these four lenses, and I talk about partnership impact. I think the thing that everyone should hear on this call is that partnerships can raise all boats. Okay. It's not just about partnerships being successful. It's about actually helping other teams. And so my best advice here is when you're talking, think of those four lenses and go to um, get alignment. So your chief customer officer cares about retention. Show them the data on improved retention and case studies and other things that your customers are seeing success. Your CMO, your CMO cares about co-marketing activities. Go and get your partners to line up and agree to do co-marketing that helps drive marketing funnel. They'll love that. Your CRO cares about deal close rates and partners referring business to you. So go and start to drive some of that activity. And then lastly, like when you're going and talking to your CEO, show them all the ways that you are helping all these other teams drive their numbers. It's not just about, again, partner sourced, it's about all of the different pieces. I think if you do that, it takes a little bit of the pressure off that short-term mindset. And they say, oh, wow, this is driving value across all of our business. Um, I'm fortunate here at Colorado, we have a CEO that really understands the value of partnerships across all the different lenses. And so that's been very refreshing. But I've been at other companies where you have to continually prove that. And so I'd encourage people to think about that.
So looking over is there any kind of things here looking at kind of challenges and opportunities? Because I know we are kind of a little bit running out of time here,
Yeah.
and I do want to have the next little segue as well. Is there anything here with this topic that you feel like we've missed that you really wanted to share, like tools, internal resistance, anything there, or
I'll share some quick tools, Andreas. So
yeah,
I think it's an area that's
gotta
improved.
love a good tool stack, so that's
Yeah, that's
perfect.
right. Yeah, this area has improved dramatically in the last, say, 5 years. So the amount of tools that are available to partner teams. Here are a few that are important tools that I recommend. Um, so a partner data platform. So PDP, we've heard this acronym. Crossbeam or Reveal are kind of the two leaders that I can think of. So that's important. It allows you to see overlaps and drive adoption and all kinds of great things. A partner PRM payment engagement platform. I mentioned earlier that we use Partner Stack. It's awesome. But there's InPartner, there's WorkSpam, there's Relevise, there's Allbound. There's a number of good platforms that you can look into. A partner portal management. So this is when you get to your website, who are all your partners? You can do it both for your solutions and for your tech partners. So I like a company called Partner Fleet. I think they do a great job, but allowing your customers to find what integrations you have or what partners you work with is super valuable. And then the last one is like tools such as Pendo for in-app pops, saying, hey, it looks like you're already a customer. You can use that reveal data or that crossbeam data. You can push it into Pendo, and then you can leverage it to your customers. Oh, it looks like you're a HubSpot customer. Did you know we have a great integration? Very valuable. And then tools like HubSpot or Marketo in terms of taking lists and sending emails out. Similar use case as Pendo, but actually sending email and trying to drive engagement via that channel. So those are some very important tools that I'd encourage people to take a look at um, in terms of managing their own partner programs.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Partner Stack as well. It's a lot of the tools we are using are using them also, so pretty sure they're doing something right. Um, would you? I guess this goes a little bit into the next question maybe, but would you invest in partner tools from day one, or would you go full on spreadsheet until you hit a certain size?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's just what your company has budget and appetite for, and I think there's an inflection point where you do start with the basics of a sheet. As you start to drive that very first revenue and you start to drive that impact, there becomes a point where you can actually go and say, I need a little budget to do this, and it would allow us to do so much more. So I think you have to find that inflection point. I think at Rollworks, I think it took us about a year plus to move from very basic to getting Crossbeam in place at that time and other tools to actually start to show the impact of partnerships more and to be able to do more use cases. So um, it does start with the most basic, and then I think you find a point where you're actually driving revenue and you can make a better business case for spending a little bit of money on tools.
Yeah, but definitely know what you're looking for before you pick a tool.
That's
That's
right. That's right.
cool. So let's go on to a little bit of a kind of a different angle here. So you tried the startup thing, you've built programs, you have a lot of learnings now. So if say that I am kind of running a fast growing SaaS company and I want to, thinking 80/20 within the next 6 months, I know we should have a 1 year perspective, but we still need to have a little bit of those quick wins. Like what would be the things that you would advise me to focus on for the first 6 months?
It's a great question. I get asked this quite a bit. Here's kind of the playbook that I would run. So, one, go in and understand what the expectations of you are as the partner leader. Think of the four lenses I've talked through. Talk with your leadership team and your CEO and ask which of these four lenses do they care most about? They may tell you, we don't care about retention right now. We care about this first. Okay. Understand that. If they care most about partner sourced revenue, which most do, I'd consider setting up an agency partner program with a referral mechanism and working to develop kind of the marketing and messaging to recruit agency partners. I think it's the fastest way that you can get into driving revenue. And then think through, this is super important. Think through what's in it for those agencies to work with you. Why do they want to work with you? They're getting contacted by dozens of technology companies. Why does an agency want to work with you? How do they benefit? How will your company help them grow their agency business and sell more services to their customers? So you got to think about that. And then if they care more about co-marketing or improved product capabilities or retention, then there's other steps, and I'll kind of walk through that here. Um, you can do things like understand who your own ideal customer profile is. So on this, I think Jared talks about this where he says, ideal customer profile, that's not really where it's at. I actually think it's very valuable to go in and say, what is my ideal customer profile? What are all the different lenses and ways to look at our customers? And then see what that matches up with your partners. So that's one thing there. The other one is, what does the ICP's tech stack look like? So who are you selling to, and what does their technology stack look like? What are the categories of technologies that are being used? So like home services companies are going to have a different technology stack than legal companies or retail companies. They're all going to use something different, right? Understand that, and that gives you a roadmap of what companies you want to partner with. What are the leaders and common names that keep coming up in those tech stacks? Go and target those. The next one is initiating partnership discussions with these companies that are identified. So start reaching out. Go and find, you can, if you have LinkedIn, you can go and find who their partner leaders are. You can work your network. You can go into groups like partnership leaders and try and connect with them. Try and connect with those companies and say, hey, I think that we'd be good working together. Here is why, and have the discussion and see. And then what I would say is then you work to set up that business case for an integration, development, a partnership. You look at the number of mutual customers. You look at your mutual prospects. You run it through Crossbeam or Reveal and see what comes out. That will tell you whether you should invest or not. What is the total addressable market of the partnership? And then lastly, I would say you just have to act as an entrepreneur. You have to move and learn quickly. Begin working through these partnerships and launching them. Get a few in the market. Depending on your product or engineering team timelines, each of these integrations will help. And so that's like, just start pushing them out there and starting to see what works and doesn't. And that's why I say, you really have to just think of how you can be nimble, and you almost act like an entrepreneur. Each of these integrations is like a business. So get it out in the market and test it. Some will work and some won't work. And so that's kind of a playbook that I would run if you're trying to look at your first 6 months or so of trying to get going.
I love that. And I'm still amazed how many forget the bit where like just look at what other stuff are your customers using, like what other tools are out there. Like even from a sales perspective, like if you're a sales rep, like know that kind of stuff and know who is likely to want to use your stuff as well. So think like that, like, and I would also say that the ICP and things like that, it keeps coming up, and it feels like more and more people are realizing that it's actually like you shouldn't just target everything and everyone with a super broad message, because yes, you get a lot of views and clicks, but that is not really always driving results. So I would definitely agree with you that ICP is
And and Andreas, this is getting into like where there's ecosystem led growth or near bound, or the kind of two topics that a lot of partnership people talk about. Really, what that means is like, look at it holistically. It's not just about your own software and pushing it out there. You have to look at that whole ecosystem, all the different pieces that are they're using within their ICP or within that ICP, and then sell, leveraging the partnership integrations, leveraging partnership contacts, what agencies are they using, and being really holistic about that. And that really is ecosystem led growth or near bound, which is, I believe, the future for a lot of selling, and partnerships. Really is kind of that coming together of those motions.
be part of the conversation. That's
That's right.
uh,
And go in
uh
with much more intel, and there's so much data now that's available that partners can share that should be leveraging.
yeah. No, I love it. I'm gonna write those down. We have actually have a bunch of customers right now who is looking into kind of building out their. So I was selfishly also asking this last question for that as well, so I can share it with them afterwards also. But Mike, I know we are so I'm gonna end with a little bit another kind of philosophical question here before we round off. But is there anything that you feel like we missed, like that you really wanted to share that we didn't cover today before I go into the philosophical stuff?
Let's go into the philosophical stuff. I think we covered a lot of ground today, and I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, no, it's not flooding people with too much info at once. So I was just curious, like in general, like looking at kind of your career, like what is kind of one like impact or insight or learning that has kind of really impacted you, like in your life in general, not necessarily professional, but just something that really stuck to you and kind of changed something for you.
Yeah, I think I could go any number of directions here, but I think where I'm going to go on this one is put yourself in someone else's shoes. So when you're trying to sell to them, when you're trying to build a partnership, any number of things, you can do it in your own personal life as well. But really step back and say, all right, you have your own wants and needs. You will go much further if you can actually put yourself into the other person's shoes and say, what are their wants? What are their needs? And then you can communicate what you want and try and tie it to their needs. If you can do that and you get a win-win for both, and you can say, this is how we both benefit. And you actually have thought through what is it that they need or what is it that they want. Put yourself in their shoes, you'll be far more successful in life. And it certainly goes with partnerships. Like, what are they trying to achieve? Um, and you can tie it to that. And so I think that helps you with your life. It helps you with your work. Um, Try not to always push your agenda. I think today in the modern world, everyone is so concerned about me and how do I get what I need. But take a step back and say, what is it that others are trying to do or achieve, or what do they want? And tailor your messaging to what it is that they are trying to do. You'll be far more effective in life. So that's my philosophical tip for you.
All right, no, it's actually I think my main thing right now is trying to do that because it's hard and you forget it a lot. So if you get it right 50% of the time, I think you're in a really
You're in a great
good
spot.
position. But Mike, been an absolute pleasure having you on. So thank you so much. And yeah, so what we're gonna do, the links are gonna be for your LinkedIn and to your Rollworks and all that kind of stuff. So there will be links so people can go and find you because I'm sure it's fine for them to reach out on LinkedIn. I think that's where you are mainly hanging out.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I am on X, although I don't use it all that much anymore. But LinkedIn's the best spot. So I'd encourage people to look me up there. I think it's linkedin.com/Mike Stalker. So yeah, happy to chat with you, Andreas, today about partnerships and the future of partnerships. Hope it was helpful to your listeners, and they can reach out and ask any more questions that they might have.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.